Hello students, this is Mr. Keogh coming to you with a lesson about the staff. Now some of you may remember some tips and tricks from previous years or semesters. Hopefully we can bring them all together today. But like I said, we're talking about the staff, this wonderful, wonderful invention upon which we draw all of our music. And in general, when we are talking about the staff, it's important we use the same vocabulary, and it's important that we use it in the same way. So when I talk about that, let's think of it this way. I have 5 lines, right? These horizontal lines, and then in between each of those lines is a space. Some of you probably remember that song, Once Upon a Time, that you learned. The staff has 5, it has 5 lines. E, G, B, D, F, E, G, B, D, F. In between each line there lies a space. F-A-C-E, it spells the word face. If you don't know that, maybe at some point you will. And if you do know it, it's kind of handy. It helps you remember. Now, here's the question, though. I have lines, 5 of them, like I said before. Which one is line 1? Now, if I were reading a book and I've got all of these words written on these lines, I might think to myself, well, normally I start reading my book up here. So maybe this is line 1, and this is line 2, and this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. However, we have to change the way we think when we're talking about the lines on the staff. And I would love it if we would think more of a building. Here I have kind of a not so beautiful, but hopefully effective drawing of a building right here. Check it out. So here's my terrible building, but hopefully it makes sense. And when I walk into my building, I'm on floor number what? Well, hopefully if you've ever been in an elevator or in an apartment building, you would know that our lower numbers are at the bottom, which means that I would call this, and I'm going to use red here, I would call this floor 1, this floor 2, this floor 3, 4, and 5, right? So we need to think of our lines like floors on a building from the bottom up. That's going to be very helpful. Because if I say, hey, draw a note on line 5, and you count from the top, you would put it there. We don't want to put it there because line 5 is at the top. Okay, does that make sense? Which means that our spaces, our corresponding spaces, are going to be in between. So you would have space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4. So hopefully you can remember floors on a building. Here I'm gonna get rid of those lines so you can see what I mean. So here I have my spaces over here on the left side. Hopefully you like my lightsaber, or maybe if you would prefer I could do like the Luke Skywalker green. But I've got my lines in red, and I've got my spaces in blue, and over here I have the corresponding letters, and hopefully you remember, F-A-C-E, it spells the word face, so there's my face in the space notes, and there's my E-G-B-D-F, E-G-B-D-F in red. Those are my lines from the bottom up. Now, maybe once upon a time you learned something different than me. Maybe you learned Every Good Boy Does Fine, or Elvis's guitar broke down Friday, Ernie gave Bert dead frogs, even Gerard Butler deserves fans. Whatever you learned, if you learned one, that's great. That's a mnemonic device that'll help you remember it. But it seems like many of you learned that song once upon a time to help you remember the lines and spaces. So let's put it all together and see if we can make some sense of this. If I were to draw a note on the staff, let's draw one here, okay? Well, I have to ask myself a couple questions. Is it on a line? Is it on a space? And then which line or space is it on? Because that's going to help me. So if I put a note right there, I go, ooh, that's on a line, right? And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's line number 4, right? What is it? E-G-B-D-F, E-G-B-D-F. So I'd think to myself, I would just count up using my saying or my song, E-G-B-D, right? So which would make that a D. Or I might say Elvis's guitar broke down. Ooh, that is a D. Woo, 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 right? If I changed it up a little bit, maybe I might go like put a note here. And I go, ooh, 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 that's in a space, right? I got space number 1, space number 2. Oh, space number 2. And if I remember correctly, I just spell face. F is the first one, and then A. Oh, that's an A. Hello. And then you've got it solved. So those are just a few quick ways that you can identify notes on our staff. There's one last thing that I want to point out. really until we start getting into instrumental music, we're worried about what we might call the treble clef staff, right? That's what we've been working on in this entire lesson. Hopefully you've seen this at the beginning of some of the songs that you've been learning over the last several years, right? There's our treble clef. And you know what? I could probably, this is for my visual learners. I'm a big visual learner. I like to see it spelled. That helps me remember it. Treble clef. And when I see that word treble, I think to myself, this kind of refers to higher voices and higher instruments. So when I see this word treble, I think upper, like a flute, a clarinet, a violin, a trumpet, and then our elementary voices, which tend to be higher, right? And then clef is just another word for cymbal. So this is like a high voice, a high instrument cymbal, our treble clef. And so when we're talking about EGBDF and FACE on the staff, we are referring to a staff that has this symbol on it, right? And later on we might learn about different ones, but for now, for the time being, up to this point in time, and for a little while going forward, this is our symbol that we care about a lot right now if we're going to be talking about FACE and EGBDF, because it will change depending on the instrument or the voice that we have. So hopefully some of this sticks with you. You can review this as many times as you need to. I hope it's connected with some of the things that you've learned in the past, and hopefully maybe you've learned a few things along the way. Anywho, if you have questions, you can always reach out to one of your music teachers. We would love to hear from you and answer any questions you might have. We hope you are well, we hope you are safe, and we hope you are enjoying your time learning.